Welcome back to Creating Cooperative Kids. I'm your host, Bill Corbett. Have you noticed people around you who seem to just exist and aren't really enjoying life? They live just to get through each day and nothing seems to excite them. Misery follows them everywhere they go. So what does it take to ensure our children don't grow up to become a member of the Walking Dead? Heather Hansen O'Neil is a professional speaker, TV show host, and corporate coach. She is also the author of the book, Find Your Fire at 40, Creating a Joyful Life During the Age of Discontent, a book that New York Times bestselling author Harv Eker says is a must-read. Thank you for taking time out to come to the show, Heather.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Your book has a really interesting message in it, actually several interesting messages in it. One I love is about figuring out what's inside of you, figuring out what is there. Anyway, can you just tell us a little bit about why you wrote the book?
Sure. I saw a pattern in the coaching clients that I had where we would start out talking about business and the things that are going on in their world, and eventually everyone came around to start talking about how, well, they're really in this business because they were guided there by their parents, not because they loved it, or something else would be going wrong in their world and they just weren't happy anymore. And I don't know if you notice it when you walk down the street, when you see people's faces, there's just a lack of peace and joy out there. And so I took it upon myself to be one of the people that are providing some tools and strategies on how people can acquire that joy and peace, what you've been talking about.
I think you notice it right away when you approach someone, if they, especially in, of course, the world of retail is a tough world to be into, but you walk up to the register and the person isn't even, they're not looking at you. Mm-hmm. They're just saying what they've robotically become accustomed to say to the next customers. And sometimes often what I do is I look at their name tag to see who they are and call them by name, mm-hmm. and say, "Good morning, Deborah," and they look at you like you just slapped them, and they realize they heard their own name. Right. And it's just a reminder they're walking in this fog, just going through the motions. Mm-hmm. And it's not about the job, it's not about retail, it's just people are in spaces that are so, it's frustrating. I think not only for them, but for those of us who notice it. And when we're talking about the whole topic of needing more peace in this world, it's like you want to pull them up out of the trenches and enjoy this gift that we call life, right?
Right, and I don't think that people comprehend how much of an impact that they have on other people. It just happened on the way to the show where I stopped in a coffee shop, and there was a gentleman that was not a customer, that was not very friendly to the woman behind the counter, and she was getting flustered, and then she went in the back and she proceeded to yell at someone else, and then when she came out, I gave her a smile and I said, "It's okay. You don't have to get flustered by his comment. You're doing a great job." And her demeanor completely changed. We have an impact both negatively and positively. And the same thing what you talk about a lot is that impact that we have on our children, that we are in control of their agendas, because if we are in a positive state, then we can create that space for them.
And you bring up an interesting point, because I think some of that discontent is, as you said, affects children, and I'm speaking about it often because a child's behavior is created by the environment around them, by the adults, the caregivers, what they're exposed to. And one of those things they're exposed to is what I call adult emotional chaos. It's what the parent brings to the family because of their own discontent, like you're talking about. Teachers, the same thing. Teachers sometimes bring that adult emotional chaos into their classroom, and they don't realize it. Mm-hmm. We bring it into our relationships in so many different ways. And I think one of the first steps that helps people is conscious awareness. Right? The first step is to help 100%. Them become aware of what's going on.
Yes, 100%. No matter how evolved you are in this, I teach people these same strategies, and I just found it happening to me because I had several different events going on at the same time, and I was stressed out, and I was wondering why my children were acting up. And then I breathed and thought, oh, oh, yes, it's because I'm projecting this energy that's stressed out. And they're very intuitive little creatures. And so they pick up on that. If it's not even something that you say directly to them, they feel that energy and they reflect it back to you. And so just being aware and taking the time to focus directly on them, putting away the cell phone, the computer, taking a walk. We had a great hike this weekend, and it changed the entire dynamic of the house.
Well, one mom came to me and she said that she was having a problem with her two little boys fighting in the morning. They would start arguing and fighting, and it would always be at the breakfast table. And she wanted me to fix it. And I said, well, before I tell you what to do, I've got a few questions. And my first question is, what are you doing about that same time when every morning when the fight triggers? What's going on with you? And you could, in her response, I could tell she was like, well, you don't even seem to realize what it's like to be a single mom. And in the way she was expressing the discontent was coming out. She said, I've got lunches to make and laundry to put in and dishes to wash and all the blah, 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 and correcting homework and all this stuff. And I could
You
feel,
probably were exhausted just hearing it, yes.
I could feel it coming out in her. I said, so she said, so what about my solution? So I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home, and from now on, tomorrow morning, you're going to start a new thing. I want for 10 minutes, you're going to set a timer. You're not going to talk. You're going to sit at the table with the boys. Because sometimes that discontent, that fighting is actually a need to engage and connect with the primary caregivers, especially the mom. And you'll notice the difference. Well, she was like, excuse me, that's not a solution.
10 whole minutes?
She got mad. And she said, I don't have 10 minutes. So she actually got mad, and she contacted me about 2 weeks later and said things actually began to change. Now, it didn't fix everything instantly, but the fighting died down because they were more connected to the mom, right? Wouldn't you say that? That's
100% agree with you. It's so important and also to empower them, because when we take on that, okay, well, the energy has to do with my stress, but also to empower them to know how much of an impact that they have on others around them. So you're teaching the same thing that you're learning it simultaneously.
And that's why this goes so well with the topic of the show, which was more peacefulness. Because when you create the space and you create more peacefulness, it develops awareness. You're, as I call it, the watcher engages and says, wow, notice how I always do this in this particular situation. A lot of magic happens when that occurs, right? Would you agree?
100%, yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you telling me about your book, and I loved it, Find Your Fire.
Thank you.
And we showed your website so people can get more information on you and your services and what we do.
Excellent.
And look forward to more conversations with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now you have it, a formula for living a joy-filled life and making it contagious for your children to catch at an early stage. But setting the stage for your children to become more joyful may require some changes at home for turning down that noise. Coming up after the break, I'll be giving you 10 things to begin doing immediately for creating a more peaceful child. Stay with me through the break to find out what they are.